On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very special treat. He's the best-selling author of the Miracle Morning series, selling millions of copies, and he's the host of the Achieve Your Goal podcast, No Big Deal. He's overcome multiple near-death experiences, including his heart stopping for a staggering 6 minutes, where he was actually pronounced dead, and being given a 20% chance to survive cancer, yet here he is. He's now sharing his unbelievable story with profound gratitude and enriching countless lives across the globe. And he's a damn good speaker as well. His personal development method is second to none. And he's here to teach you how to practice the miracle morning routine that'll help you quantum leap on your growth journey into abundance. He's just a juggernaut in all facets of life and a terrific husband and father. Please welcome the dynamic, brilliant, resilient, and handsome, the unique Hal Elrod. How you doing, Hal?
Craig, that was a customized intro that was just kept me on the edge of my seat. What's he going to say next? What's he going to say next? That was awesome, man. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to craft that, brother.
My pleasure, my man. I'm so happy I did good by you. I always take great pride in those. It just comes down to effort. But like I always like to say to a lot of our mutual friends that have been on the show, it's your story, Hal. You wrote it. I just said it.
Yeah. Amen. Well, you said it well, brother.
Thank you so much, buddy. We're going to have so much fun today. For the audience that's listening, we're almost at 5 million downloads now. My biggest suggestion is do a deep dive. It's not the first time we've collaborated with Hal. He's on the Paradigm Shift with Melter and I. Check out his books, his content, everything he's got going on. Play a little catch up if you're not familiar. What I think is most valuable today is we just have an unbelievable conversation. Before we dive in, we're going to get a little weird. You ready for me?
I love getting weird. Let's do it. I'm from Austin. We're a little bit weird here.
Same. Hal, what is your superpower?
Oh, that's an awesome question, man. It's funny. I was actually journaling about this, I don't know, probably a week ago. So my, I have two? And now I feel arrogant.
Absolutely.
To say
Absolutely.
But they're related. So the first one is, no matter what happens to me, I'm able to maintain a optimal mindset. So essentially, this is what I'm planning on for my next book, which is teaching the superpower, which is how do you choose how you experience every moment of your life, regardless of what's going on in your life? Meaning, how do you, in the midst of the most difficult time you've ever faced, go, how do I want to feel? Do I want to be depressed and angry, or do I want to be happy, grateful, excited, motivated, right? And it's always like, well, of course I want to be that. But I think my superpower is I'm like, oh, when I was in my car accident, and I was told I would never walk again, I told my dad, said, Dad, I've already thought through this. I'll be the happiest, most grateful person you've ever seen in a wheelchair, because I'll never let my unchangeable circumstances determine my mental and emotional well-being. So I'm really inspired to help people do that. How can you be at peace with the most unimaginable, difficult, challenging circumstances of life, or even the just everyday mundane, fights with your spouse or whatever? How can you be totally at peace, grateful, and happy in the midst of all those challenges? And then the last thing is my other superpower is taking concepts that are kind of esoteric, like those taught in the Miracle Morning, and making them really simple, actionable, and results oriented, so that they kind of blend well together.
Bang, that's where we dropped the mic, but we're just getting warmed up. And I can confirm from being a fan, and we've connected before, and we're building a friendship, you do make some complex terms or examples or anything really, just strategies. You make them so digestible for the average person, and that's a skill set and a gift, and it makes it more easy to adapt and apply. I want to acknowledge you for that. And when you're talking about like the ability to kind of stay calm or optimize your mindset in a given situation, a word that came to mind is equanimity.
Yeah. One of my mentors, Juliana Ray, talks about equanimity quite a bit. Yeah. And just being able to navigate the storms of life in the most positive, peaceful way that you possibly can.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah. Sorry to interject. I was just going to say, because there's always going to be a curveball when you're waiting for a fastball, or obstacles or adversity, sometimes bigger than others. But we do have a choice on how we stay composed, or maybe lack thereof. And based upon my life experience, and let me just be clear, I'm still a work in progress, but the more cool, calm, and collective and composed I stay, and instead of like having a pity party to thinking about what can go wrong else, and I'm thinking like more like what can go right from this, or what are we learning, or how can this protect and propel us, all of a sudden you don't stay there for very long. So even the situation, in addition to your mindset, seems to get better.
No, that's true. I mean, life's going to do what life's going to do, right? Like there's going to be good days, bad days, horrible days, average days, all of the above. And it's, who are you going to be in the midst of those days? Are you going to allow your outer world to determine your inner world? And I think that here's the challenge is we've been conditioned to think that bad things happen and I naturally feel bad. Good things happen and I naturally feel good. And I guess what I'm offering here, the paradigm is, no matter what happens, why don't you just feel however you choose to feel? And that's the distinction is you don't have to allow your mental and emotional state to be determined by and at the mercy of your circumstances. You can actually take control and go, no matter what's going on, this is who I am. This is how I show up, whether it's raining outside, whether it's a storm or it's sunny. This is who I am and this is how I show up regardless.
This is so good, brother, because I think about how most people think that like everyone's chasing a feeling, like they're chasing the money,
Sure.
things,
Totally,
because they think that that's going to create a feeling of having a lit soul. But the reality is you can actually activate your lit soul now and choose to be in alignment and feel good. And then ironically, when you're in that frequency, you end up manifesting the things that you thought you wanted to create that feeling in the first place.
Yeah, no, totally. It's like I saw somebody the other day, she posted a question in our Miracle Morning community group. And she said, I keep, I'm a goal setter. I keep setting goals, but every time I hit the goal, I feel empty afterwards. And then I need a new goal to be excited and I feel empty again. And I said, well, you are dictating or delegating your mental and emotional well-being to your goals. And I said, why don't you make your goal feeling the way that you are wanting the goal to make you feel, but make the goal the feeling all the time, right? So if you think I want to achieve this goal because I'll feel accomplished, I'll feel significant, I'll feel happy, I'll feel proud, right? Ask yourself, what would it take to feel happy, significant, accomplished, and proud every single day, regardless of what's going on in my life?
This is so good, straight up. And I'm taking a note because something that I often say to my community is you got to fall in love with the process, or at least find love in the journey, right? Because like your community member just was struggling with is, and our mutual friend Tom Billy was just saying this on the show as well. It's like every time we climb that mountain and we get to the peak, by human nature, we're always thinking about the next mountain or the next goal, right?
Yeah.
So essentially it never ends.
Yeah.
So it's not, and I know this is kind of cliche, but it's not the actual end game or the destination. It's falling in love with the journey. It's figuring it out. It's the process where the magic happens, right?
Yeah. So what did I used to say? When I was 20 years old, I had a breakthrough. I was in sales. I
So
sold
like 10 years ago?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, dude. No, 23 years ago.
Really?
But I had a breakthrough. I was in sales and I had a rough week. And in particular, this one night on the phone, I made all my 20 something phone calls and scheduled 0 appointments. I had, people hang up on me and just rude. And I was starting to second guess, my career choice. And I'm thinking, dude, I'm tired of sales, man. It's like every day rejection, disappointment, failure. I'm like, I wanted just a job where I clock in and clock out. I want to go back to something like that. And as I'm falling asleep that night, I have a breakthrough. And the breakthrough is I realize I am emotionally attached to my day-to-day results, but I'm not completely in control of my day-to-day results. I can't control. If I make 20 phone calls, I don't control who picks up the phone. And I don't control who says, yes, you can come over tomorrow. That's out of my control. The only thing I control is how many times I pick up the phone and dial the phone number. And then I realized, well, wait a minute, at the end of this year, whether or not I reach my goal will be dependent on how many times I picked up the phone. If I pick up the phone X number of times, I'm going to sell X number of my product. If I were to 2X the number of times I picked up the phone, I'd 2X my income and my sales. And it almost seemed I had to go through it again. I'm like, wait, it can't be that simple. Wait, no, that doesn't make sense. So wait, if I just commit to a specific number of phone calls every day, that'll determine how much I sell at the end of the year. And if I want to double my sales, I just got to make twice the phone calls. Now, doubling your sales is intimidating, but going from 20 phone calls a day to 40 phone calls a day, it only takes me an hour or so to make 20 phone calls. So not hard at all, but it's like, wow, I all of a sudden realized I'm in more control of my destiny, if you will, my results, my goals than I've understood up until this point. And then here was the breakthrough upon the breakthrough, Craig, as I went, I'm going to try something different. Instead of stressing out over my sales goals, I'm going to figure out how many calls I need to make on average to reach my goals. And then I'm just going to commit to the calls every day, and I'm not going to care how they go. Whereas today, that day, I made 20 calls, scheduled 0 appointments, and I felt like crap. I was like, this sucks. I don't like the way I feel. I feel like I'm failing. I feel like I'm behind. I'm not going to reach my goals. I go, what if I just commit to make 20 calls a day every day or 5 days a week? And if I schedule 0 calls on one day, it doesn't matter because I know that I'm playing the long game. And at the end of the year, it'll average itself out. And so I started. So the next day, I'm like, all right, my goal is 20 calls. And when I'd make a call, if somebody hung up on me, in the past, that really hurt my feelings. Now I'm like, sweet, that's the fastest call I could have made. I'm on to the next. I'm closer to 20. And here's the crazy thing. 3 months later, I was the #1 sales rep in my company out of 50,000 sales reps, and I had 0 sales goal. I mean, I had a sales goal in the back of my mind, but all I did every day was I'm making my calls and I'm going to the pool. I lived in an apartment. We had a pool. It was summer. Make calls, go to the pool for a couple hours, and then get dressed and then go to my appointments. But it was incredible. I mean, going back to the process, right? If you can commit to the process and enjoy every moment of the process without being emotionally attached to your results, I believe that's, if there is a secret to success, that might be it.
This is so good, but I knew there was going to be alignment here, but something I always say is marry the process, divorce the outcome.
Same thing. Yep. Yeah. Different way of saying the same thing.
Exactly. And I fall in love with the process too, because it's all, if you stick to that, this will happen anyway. But also, like you said, like it's good to have an intention, a whiteboard, a goal, a vision board, whatever.
Sure.
But then you kind of divorce from that, and then you just get to the process and so forth. So good. And I wonder if this is kind of correlated to something. I was checking out your content, which I suggest the whole audience do immediately after this conversation. And you were talking about you don't get what you want, but you get what you're committed to. I thought that was really powerful.
Yeah. Well, and that comes from, so the Miracle Morning that's my life's work. You know, it started as my little morning routine in 2008. It changed my life so fast. I went to my wife. I said, sweetheart, in the last 2 months, because of this morning routine, I've doubled my income. And this was in the height of the 2008 recession. I mean, the economy was crashing, and I initially crashed with it. Like 6 months into this downward spiral where I lost my house. I went, 50 grand in credit card debt. My body fat percentage tripled because I canceled the gym membership. I was eating, just whatever I could eat quickly. And it was this downward spiral. And then I created this morning routine. I had a theory that Jim Rohn inspired. Jim Rohn said, your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development. And I quantified that immediately. I went, well, wait a minute. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, and Craig, let me ask you this question. It's kind of rhetorical, but just, bear with me here. On a scale of 1 to 10, if we're measuring success in any area of our life, 10 being the best it could be, 1 being the worst, on a scale of 1 to 10, what level of success do we all want?
10.
10. I've never met anybody that's like, I don't want to be too happy. Like, I don't want too much money, right? Like, I don't know. No, I believe there's this innate drive and desire within us to fulfill our potential and live the most extraordinary life that we can imagine. But very few people get there. Why? Well, according to Jim Rohn, your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development. So in my mind, I went, okay, I want level 10 success like everybody. And then I asked myself, what's my level of personal development? And if you're listening right now, ask yourself that. And let me give you a little context so you understand what the question means. Personal development is, who are you becoming? How are you developing your mindset every day? Right? How about your energy levels? How about your habits, your beliefs? How about, right? Who are you becoming every day? That's your level of personal development, how you're developing yourself as a person. And at that time in my life, I was a mess. I was depressed. My house was being foreclosed on. I was about to move back in with my dad, at 30 years old, when I thought I was living the dream. Like I had bought a house, I had a successful business, boom, it all crashed. And so I went, okay, if I want level 10 success, my level of personal development is like at a 2 or a 3. And I believe that's the disconnect for 99, give or take, % of our society is everybody wants level 10 success. Very few people have a personal development ritual that is ensuring that they become the level 10 version of themselves that is capable of achieving and sustaining that success. So my theory was, I'm going to go home. I'm going to go research online. What do the world's most successful people do for their personal development? And I'm going to implement the number one practice, whatever I determine that to be. And as I'm going through, I spent like an hour online searching, and I had a list of not one, which I was looking for, but I had 6 different practices. And it was meditation, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and journaling. And the problem with that is our society, we are conditioned to seek novelty. We want the new, right? So when I saw these practices, my brain is like, well, wait, no, none of these are new. Like I've heard of all of these. And it doesn't make sense when you think about it, but we tend to discount things that we are aware of. Makes no sense. Like the question would be not, do you know that meditation exists and you've heard of affirmations and you've heard of visualization and you know about exercise and reading and journaling? Are you doing those every day? Right? And I'm looking at this list and I'm going back and reading articles. I'm trying to figure out the best one to do. And then I had the epiphany. I went, wait a minute. What if instead of one, what if I woke up an hour earlier tomorrow, even though I wasn't a morning person? That was the hardest mental hurdle for me to get over, which we can cover how to do that for anybody listening that has that same hurdle.
Sure.
But I'm going, what if I got up an hour earlier and I did all 6 of the world's most timeless, proven personal development practices that the world's most successful people across all walks of life have sworn by for centuries? No, they're not new, but they're what works, right? And I woke up that night. It was funny because like I didn't know how to meditate, and I always thought affirmations were kind of goofy. So that night I opened up 6 internet browsers, and I was like, how do you meditate? How do you do affirmations? How do you do visualization, right? Like I did a little crash course that night, woke up the next morning, spent a few minutes revisiting the articles, and I went through all 6 practices. And I want to say this. At this time in my life, I was genuinely depressed. I felt hopeless. 6 months, I'm drowning in debt. I'm foreclosed on my house, and I couldn't figure out how to turn it around. That night, I felt like a kid on Christmas Eve because I was like, this could be it. If I start every day by doing the 6 most timeless, proven personal development practices, it should be only a matter of time before I become the person that I need to be to turn my life around, right? And so I woke up the next morning. I was excited. I did all 6 practices, but I did them poorly because I never meditated. So I'm like, okay, how do I meditate? All right, I quiet my mind, and I'm like, oh, I suck at this. Like my mind's racing, right? I'm doing these affirmations I read online that feel super inauthentic. I'm like, I am a money magnet, blah, 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 right? But even doing a relatively poor version of these 6 practices, at the end of that hour, I was like, this is it. I feel so clear, so calm. I let go of my stress. I feel so focused. I'm learning something new through my reading, right? I'm motivated. I'm grateful. Like, this is it. It's only a matter of time. And to be honest, the time frame I was thinking was 1 year. It's in my mind. I'm like, all right, the compound effect, right? I'll get 1% better every day, and it'll gradually add up. And a year from now, I'll be a different person, a different version of myself, get better results. And it took less than 2 months, where in less than 2 months, I more than doubled my income. I went from being in the worst shape of my life. I hadn't exercised. I canceled my gym membership 6 months prior. I committed to run a 52-mile ultra marathon, which I started training for within like a week. And my depression didn't take 2 months to go away. That started fading on day 1 because I had this practice now that was so promising of what it was going to do. And I remember I literally signed on 2 coaching clients. I went to my wife. She was coming out of the bedroom. I can like picture the scene. And I go, sweetheart, I just signed on 2 more coaching clients. In the last 2 months, we went from 6 coaching. I had 12 coaching clients when the economy started to crash. I was down to 6, and now I was at 14. And I said, sweetheart, I've doubled our income, and it's all because of this morning routine. It's amazing. It's a miracle. And she goes, it's your miracle morning. And I go, I like that. Miracle morning, right? Like, cool. So I wrote on my schedule Miracle Morning every day. But again, this is like, to be clear, this is not a book idea at this point. Like, this wasn't like, hey, what's a good book I could write that would sell a lot of No, this is very organic. I started teaching it to my coaching clients. And out of the 14 clients, almost all of them resisted. They're like, dude, I'm not a morning person. I'm like, I know, neither was I. And I gave them some tricks on how to beat the snooze button. And Fast forward 2 weeks later, 13 out of the 14 came to the call. And the one said, dude, I'm not doing it. I was like, all right, whatever. He was like my pain in the ass coaching client. But the other 13,
everyone's got one of those.
Everybody's got one. The other 13, all 13 out of the 14 were like, dude, Hal, it works. I'm doing this miracle morning. I've done it almost every day. Some of them were like, I decided to make it 2 hours instead of 1 hour because it's so good. I was like, dude, I get it. I get it. And then that's when the light bulb went off and I went, if the miracle morning changed my life and I wasn't a morning person and I was like in a really low point, and if this is changing 13 out of 14 of my coaching clients' lives and none of them were morning people or most weren't morning people, this could change anyone's life. And I have a responsibility to share it. And so that's when I committed, all right, I got to write a book. 3 years later, I self-published The Miracle Morning, and the rest is kind of history, as they say.
Yeah, this is unbelievable, straight up. And I love that you said that your depression kind of evaporated the next day. Why? Because you were enthusiastic, you were excited, you had purpose, you had meaning, you were onto something.
Totally.
Right. And a couple of things that you mentioned, you have clients. I imagine the audience was curious, like, what were you coaching them on?
So my background I mentioned was in sales. And so when I moved on from sales, or when I was planning on moving on, I'm like, what's the next phase of my life? And my dreams were I wanted to write a book, and I wanted to be a professional speaker. That was the main thing I wanted to do. But there's no clear path, right? It's not like you go to college and then you get hired by an agency that makes you a speaker. It's literally the Wild West, right? It's just guerrilla marketing, figuring it out. So I figured that might be slow going. And so I'm like, what's a source of income? And I asked, what am I qualified to do? And I thought, dude, the only thing I've done is sell, $500,000 of kitchen knives. And then I thought, what if I coached my colleagues at Cutco? And I taught, and I taught them how to do it. So that's how I started there. I started at home, and I reached out to a bunch of my Cutco colleagues. I'm like, hey, I'm launching a coaching business. I'm going to coach Cutco reps. Do you want, what? And I'm going to give you a discount if you're my first 20 clients or whatever. So that's how I started. And then as I read book after book on how to be a better coach, then I evolved into a business coach. I started coaching financial advisors, real estate agents, entrepreneurs, you name it. So it kind of evolved from there, but it was kind of a business, sales, and success coaching.
I love all of this, brother. Straight up. Only negative I got going on is we don't have 10 hours to chat, but I know it's just a friendship. But think about what happened. Rituals and habits, right? I think of standards. You started to set a higher standard for yourself. And anybody listening to this call right now, this is very tangible. Can you wake up a half hour earlier tomorrow, create some more time? Can you make some better choices with your nutrition? Can you maybe add some more exercise to your routine? These are things that you can just commit to, and you can immediately be, even if you don't have clarity of what you want to do, let's just say you want to reinvent yourself, you're already going in the right direction because you're holding yourself to a higher standard, which means you respect yourself a little bit more, right?
Completely. You said something that, you mentioned these different habits. Robert Kiyosaki said something that made me look at the miracle morning in a different way. And these 6 practices, by the way, let me give a quick context.
Please.
So for anybody listening, these 6 practices are now known as the savers. So when I was writing the miracle morning, I was frustrated going, there's no rhyme or reason to these 6 practices. None of them are new. None of them are my own original practices. How am I going to organize them in a way that's memorable for people and it really flows? And it's so funny. My wife was my muse again. And it was the same. We were in a different house at this time. I had moved back in with my dad because I lost my house, rebuilding phase. But I met my wife in the hallway again. And I go, she goes, what's wrong? You look like you look rattled or whatever. And I said, I'm trying to write the book. And I said, I have these 6 practices, but there's no rhyme or reason connecting them. And she goes, why don't you use the thesaurus and see if there's any synonyms for the words that you're using, like for meditation, and then see if you can form an acronym that people would remember. And I was like, okay, all right, okay, I like that. I'm gonna check it out. So meditation became silence, which I actually like better because that also could be breath work. It could be prayer. It's about some form of silence that lowers your cortisone levels, lowers your stress levels. It helps you in a calm, peaceful state, and also allows you access to your deepest wisdom, which only shows up when you're in a period of silence. And most people start their day with their phone, and there's no space for that wisdom to emerge. That's why the ideas come in the shower or they come when you're falling asleep. But that's accidental. This is about being intentional, having your journal next to you while you sit in silence and you meditate and pray. And then you go, ooh, that's it. That's it. That's the idea, right? You write it down and keep moving. So the S is for silence. The A is for affirmations. The V is for visualization. The E is for exercise. So these are the savers. And the R is for reading. And the final S is for scribing, which was originally journaling. But again, the J would have made the acronym awkward, right? So we got the savers. And Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he and I spoke at an event. I was his opening act. This was probably 7 years ago, a few years after the Miracle Morning came out. And I got to have dinner with him and the founders of the event afterwards. And back in my hotel room, I had signed a copy of The Miracle Morning to Robert, and I had it on my lap under the table during dinner. And I was trying to muster up the courage to give it to him. But my internal voice was like, dude, Hal, like, he doesn't need your freaking book. He's worth like $80 million. You're going to look like a goober. You look desperate. Like, you're giving him your little self-published book. Oh, Robert, read my book. So I had this voice going in my head. And then thankfully, Wayne Gretzky showed up. Not literally, but metaphorically. The famous quote from Wayne Gretzky popped in my head as I'm sitting there with self-doubt. And he goes, you miss all the shots you don't take, right? That's what Wayne's known for, that quote.
Yep.
And I go, dude, yeah. What if I give it to Robert and he throws it in the trash 5 minutes later? Whatever. I can't control that. But at least I took a shot. And who knows? Maybe he reads it, right? So I wait till the dinner's over. I give it to Robert. I tell him his book made a big impact on me, and he's polite and he thanks me. And I'm thinking, he's not going to read it. Dude, 3 weeks later, I get an email from Robert's assistant, and she says, I'm paraphrasing, but basically, Robert has read The Miracle Morning 3 times in the last 3 weeks. And like, my jaw hits the table. I'm like, oh, what? No. This is crazy. This is like surreal. He's doing it almost every day with his wife, Kim. And it's changing his life, and he wants to interview you on Rich Dad Radio to talk about it.
No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe it. So I go on Rich Dad Radio, and Robert is just like, it's almost like he's doing most of the talking, telling me how good this is, how it changed his life, and telling his readers, go buy the book. Stop what you're doing, go buy the book. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to argue. But then this is what he said that changed the way I thought about the savers. At the end of the interview, he said, Hal, before you wrote The Miracle Morning, he said, I would go as far as to say that almost every successful person on the planet attributes a large part of their success to at least one of the savers. Some people, it's their meditation practice. Some people, it's their affirmation. Some people, it's their visualization. Some people, it's the books they've read, right? He said, any one of the savers is life-changing. But he said, I think you named the book right, The Miracle Morning. He said, because any one of these will change your life. But when you do all 6 in one ritual every day to start your day, he said, you'll experience miracles, like practical miracles where you create these results that are beyond what you thought were possible. He said, I'm doing it right now. He said, I'm happier than I've been in as long as I can remember. He goes, I'm losing weight. And it's crazy. If you look at the Robert Kiyosaki in the Miracle Morning movie, so there's a movie on miraclemorning.com. We did a documentary. Robert's in it. It was right after that, right when he started the Miracle Morning, probably a month later. In that movie, no offense, Robert, but he looks heavy, man. He's heavy. He looks bloated. He does not look doesn't look good. Look at him now, and you could look at him 6 months after the interview, right? He's svelte. He's in shape, man. And he has told me that he talks about the Miracle Morning in every speech he gives all around the world. But anyway, but the point being that's why the Miracle Morning is these 6 practices. You mentioned these habits. If you were to think, man, I really should meditate, but when am I going to find time to do that? You know what, though? Gosh, I got to start exercising more, but you know what? I need to read more, but I mean, when I should journal, I should do affirmation, right? Like all of these would overwhelm you. But when you stack all 6 habits in a 30-minute ritual in the morning, you get the benefits of all 6, in relatively little time.
Unbelievable. And also I love, like, people think, like, since I reinvented myself from Wall Street to what I'm doing now, that it's like overnight success, but I've been studying personal development and working on myself for 15 years. I just finally put it all together. I love how you're such a student of the game. Like you're familiar with other people's principles and you kind of take what you like and you leave the rest and you make it your own and you make it so digestible. It's just so special. I imagine that there's some people, a lot of people that are listening right now and like, I've tried some of these, but I haven't been so successful. I'm just curious because you said this was a little hokey. What is a mantra or an affirmation that you might use that's very helpful?
Yeah, I'll go a little deeper than that and I'll share with you the affirmations formula for what I teach in the Miracle Morning.
Perfect.
Affirmations, I believe, are the most misunderstood form of personal development. And I honestly, in my opinion, they're the most effective. And I'll explain what I mean. So affirmations have been taught for, I don't know, probably since before I was born, right? You were born. There's two faults with the way they're taught. Number one, we're taught to lie to ourselves until we believe the lie. So if you're broke, if you're struggling financially, you're taught to affirm, I am a millionaire or I am wealthy. And these self-help gurus will say, just say it over and over until you believe it, right?
Right.
Now, there may be some merit to that, but I think it's more problematic than it is helpful. And there's a much better way, which we're going to get to. But here's what I mean. If you're struggling financially and you say, I am a millionaire, you know that's not true. So you're creating an internal conflict as if we didn't have enough of them, right? And the truth will always prevail. Now you're adding liar on top of being financially challenged, right? So lying to yourself will never be the optimal strategy. The second problem with affirmations is we're taught to use this flowery, passive language that produces an almost magical result independent of any effort from us. Here's an example. Very popular affirmation, actually. I am a money magnet. Money flows to me effortlessly and in abundance. That's not how money works. And the problem with that is you're deluding yourself into thinking that you're a money magnet and money is going to flow to you effortlessly. Go find me a person that's wealthy that's like, dude, I just sat on my couch and I just magnetized the wealth to keep flowing in, right? Like they're selling you something. If you buy that, I got a, what is it, lakefront property in Arizona, I can tell you. But that the problem, here's why people like that affirmation, in my opinion, is if you check out, if you open up your bank balance, right? And you look at your phone, you're like, oh God, I'm negative, right? Or, oh man, I'm this isn't good. Oh man. And you feel stress and you feel fear. You pull out those affirmations. I need to do my affirmations. I need a reset. I am a money magnet. Okay, that feels better. Money's going to flow to me effortlessly and in abundance. Oh God, that provides such a sense of relief for me. That's why they like it. It's like this quick hit of a delusional drug, right? That isn't actually going to manifest itself. It's like, no, that's not how money works. So let me give you 3 steps to create affirmations that are practical, that are actionable, and that are results oriented. Like I want to feel better, but I want my bank account balance to improve in alignment with what I'm affirming. I don't just want to feel better, right? And then stay broke.
Yep.
So number 1, affirm what you're committed to. Affirm what you're committed to, right? In life, you don't get what you want, you get what you're committed to. That's what you said earlier. Here's the template. I'm committed to blank, no matter what, there is no other option. I am committed to blank, no matter what, there is no other option. So by affirming what you're committed to every day, number 1, you're keeping that commitment top of mind. How often have we set a goal and then we like put it away and we didn't look at it for 6 months? And you pulled it out. You're like, oh, I totally forgot I wanted to do that. Right.
Yep.
So you're affirming every day this goal that you're committed to. You're keeping it top of mind. But more importantly, you're actually recommitting to it every single day, which is what you have to do. You only get what you're committed to in life. True. And the way to stay committed to something is to affirm it with conviction every day. I'm going to give you a very real life example. 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with a rare aggressive form of cancer, and I was given a 20 to 30% chance of surviving. My daughter was 7. My son was 4. The idea of dying when you have a 7-year-old son and leaving him without a dad, or a 7-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son, to me, that's the worst thing. Like I could die, no problem. But leaving my kids without a dad, that was really hard.
Understood.
I felt fear in the beginning. What if I do everything right and I still die? What's going to happen to them? Within the first couple of weeks, maybe the first week, I created an affirmation following my own formula. And this first step, I am committed to blank no matter what, there is no other option. I'm committed to beating cancer and living to be 100 plus years old alongside Ursula and the kids. No matter what, there is no other option. I had that printed out on my bedside table. I had it on my phone home screen. I had multiple copies. I read it every single day, every morning, at least once, every night before bed. And anytime I felt fear seeping in and overtaking my nervous system, because the fear wasn't serving me, right? Allowing my cells to be infused with the chemicals that fear produces was cancer inducing and nurturing, it wasn't nurturing my immune system. So whenever I felt afraid, I pulled out the affirmation, and with conviction, I said, I am committed to beating cancer and living to be 100 plus years old alongside Ursula and the kids, no matter what. There is no other option. And I said it with so much conviction, and you can fill that blank in with, I'm committed to earning $100,000 this year. I'm committed to whatever your goal is, right? Doesn't matter. So, but what happened was, within a matter of weeks, the fear disappeared. It was replaced with faith, because with whatever you affirm with conviction and emotion, it literally becomes your reality.
Yep.
And so I replaced fear with this unwavering faith in my commitment to beat cancer. The second step is affirm why it's a must for you. Why is it a must for you? Why are you willing to do whatever it takes to follow through with that commitment? And it could be one reason. For me, I had 5 bullet points. I'm committed to beating cancer for Ursula because I promised her forever and a day. I'm committed to beating cancer for Sophia and Halston, my kids, because they need their daddy's love, guidance, and leadership. And I'm committed to being here for them for the rest of my long, happy, healthy life. I'm committed to beating cancer for my mom and dad because they don't deserve to lose another child. My sister died when I was 8. I'm committed to beating cancer for myself because, damn it, I deserve to live a long, happy, healthy life. And last but not least, I'm committed to beating cancer for the millions of people who are themselves battling cancer or some other disease and may not have been blessed with the knowledge and resources that I have, and I can help them on their journey. That was the fuel that fueled my commitment. I was when I read those whys, it was like, I dropped some F, but F now I'm winning. I'm living. I'm doing whatever it takes.
Non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable. And the third step, affirm which specific actions you will take and when. That's where the rubber meets the road. If all you do is affirm the first two, you're going to delude yourself into thinking, yeah, I'm committed. No, you're not. You have to have specific actions that you're committed to taking, and that when you're going to take those actions, that will generate what it is that you're committed to. And so for me, it was the high level was I'm committed to combining the best of Western medicine with a relentless pursuit of research and implementation of every holistic practice available to me. So, and then I had a bullet point list of all of everything, what that looked like. I was reading books every day. I doubled down on my Miracle Morning, not only to heal, but to learn how to heal. And I ended up with the holistic stuff. I was taking 70 supplements a day that were vetted out to not have any chemicals and synthetic fillers in them. Yeah, I mean, I was doing 3 coffee enemas a week, which, man, that's out of your comfort zone, if anything is. I was doing low ozone sauna, lymphatic massage. I was juicing. I was eating organic. I did everything because part of it was taking 100% responsibility for my recovery and not giving that to my doctors. Who cares more about you, your doctors or you? And so those 3 steps, that's an example of the Miracle Morning book, and why I think it's impacted millions of people is because a lot of these practices like affirmations or visualization might be thought of as woo-woo depending on how you've been taught them, right? And for me, I don't do well with woo-woo. Like, I need it to be practical, actionable, and generate results. And so you can take that affirmations formula, and essentially I applied that to every single one of the Miracle Morning Savers practices so that you see those results relatively quickly.
First of all, I love you, so there's that. Second of all, your energy is off the... Everyone's always talking about my energy. I mean, this is unbelievable. This is a non-figure call for the audience. And one thing that you said there, well, you said many, but I love that you combined a little bit of the woo with the practical. It's the perfect recipe, because you're right. there's so many woo-woos out there and it's incomplete,
Yeah.
right? And
There's a
also,
fine line between woo and
yes.
practical. Yeah.
And I think Wayne Dyer said, you don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you're able to become and sustain vibrationally. And something
Mm,
that you mentioned earlier made me think of like when you're really emotionally into something and you're the conviction, is that the word you used? It
yeah.
just changes your whole physiology.
No, it's completely true. And for me, the miracle morning is, you know, if I were just simplifying it, it enables you to focus on what you want in your life, who you want to become, and then put yourself in a peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state so that you can go out there and generate the motivation you need and go out there and create it.
But and we're not done yet. And what are the practical steps that you're committed to taking?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
You're such a stud, brother. The podcast is breaking out. I say very humbly. What's the best way for the community? And by the way, we're going to have to bring you back for sequel because I want to talk about the accident a little bit. I know you
Yeah,
talk about that a lot, but just to give some context, what's the
sure.
best way for the community and audience to support you, brother?
Go to miraclemorning.com and there's a lot of free resources there. And then you can also access the Miracle Morning book there. The movie, which I think I touched on, but we created a 6 years in the making. We created a documentary that we interviewed people like Robert Kiyosaki and Brendan Burchard and Mel Robbins and Robin Sharma and Lewis Howes and 18-time world champion boxer Layla Ali, Muhammad Ali's daughter. And the list goes on and on and on about the importance of morning routines and what they do. We also followed my journey of trying to share the miracle morning around the world, but halfway through the documentary, I'm diagnosed with cancer. And I called my director. I said, dude, the movie's got to be on hold. I've got to fight for my life. And he said, Hal, I love you. You're going to beat this. And I want to film you doing it because you're going to inspire millions of people to overcome, whether it's their cancer or whatever their challenges are. And I'm like, let me talk to my wife. I don't know about you filming. And I'm glad I said yes, because the movie, you know, it takes a really dynamic turn about an hour in, where the last 30 minutes are me fighting for my life and integrating the Miracle Morning into that. So miraclemorning.com, you can watch the movie. You can download the free app, which has a built-in journal and affirmations creator and savers tracker and all sorts of other stuff. And then you can access the Miracle Morning community, which is a Facebook group with 340,000 people in it that will support you on your journey.
Done and done. Hang up for 1 second. I just want to connect you after. Hala wants you to know your definition of perspective, authenticity, and resilience. I can personally guarantee your best yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect for you. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless, juicy, energetic nuggets today.
Thank you, Craig. Appreciate you, brother.
My man, that was terrific.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know.
For having me.
I mean, talk about time well spent. That was action-packed. You're awesome. We just handed in the manuscript for our book deal with Wiley, so I'm getting into that. It's supposed to release in August, so the whole book tour and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah, and you've done something really right with yours, so maybe I could pick your brain at some point. But I'm just so excited for you, brother. I'm so proud of you. You're fun to watch, and your content is awesome. And I really love that you combine the spiritual with the practical. I think the practical is missing from a lot of stuff.
Sure. It's like usually one or the other, right? You really got to integrate because they're both valuable.
That's it. Let's stay connected.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, reach out if you need anything. I'm gonna. What time is it? Yeah, I got to leave in a few minutes to get my kids. But thanks for having me, and I really appreciate this, dude.
Of course. Can we exchange numbers?
Yeah. Let me.
Shoot me a text.
I'll give you mine.